Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be making green tomato zucchini relish. So let's get started. Alright, so yesterday I finally delved into making my own homemade relish. Now last year I did make a chutney and it was just something I used up right away. Now since I'm making a canned relish, the thing that's been holding me back is the amount of sugar. I looked up some different recipes and some of them just, I could not believe how much sugar they were using in it. And so I found one that was a little bit lower in sugar, and then I cut back just a little bit more on it, and I found this turned out really, really good, and I'm thinking I could cut back even more on the sugar. So I'm going to be doing that today, and so I'm going to get started and show you how I did that, and I'll make probably a few more changes today. What I'm using is a batter bowl or an 8-cup measuring cup. And so you can use basically whatever ratio you want of green tomato to zucchini. You can do a half and half. You can do more zucchini than green tomato. You could do all of one and not the other. But I like the color that the zucchini skin adds to the relish because it gives it a little bit more of a darker green color. So that's the main reason I'm going to be using that. Otherwise, I have other ways I'd be using up these zucchinis. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started and show you what I do. I'm going to go for at least 6 cups of a combination of the tomatoes and the zucchini. So I'm going to get started and speed the rest of this up. So I went ahead and went up to 8 cups since I do have a lot of green tomatoes to use up. And because I'm going to put a little salt on this to help pull a lot of that water out so I don't end up with a runny relish. And I'm going to use about a 1/4 cup of salt since I will be rinsing this off when I'm ready for it. And go ahead and mix that in there. And then while this is sitting, I'm going to go ahead and cut up my onions and garlic and peppers, and I'll go ahead and add them in here too and let them sit in the brine, but mostly it's the tomatoes and the zucchini I'm concerned about. I've got a handful of garden garlic here, and I'm going to be putting that in. I'll probably still want to add more than that, but I also will be using a dried granulated garlic because I always do that with both, because the granulated garlic does also help soak up any excess liquid because I really don't want it too runny. I'm down to the very bottom of all those onions I pulled because I've been doing so much canning, so I'm down to just these few. And they're all the little guys, but we're going to get these used up today. I'm going to chop the onion up in my chopper with the garlic. And again, I will link to this chopper below, though I'd still love to find a glass one for a good price that's big enough. This one here has been, even though it's plastic, it's been a really good chopper for me. I like the crank method better than the pump. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. And we'll dump that in there. Peppers is another good thing you can add. And so I'm using only peppers from my garden. My Anaheims are still coming in, but none of them are getting very big anymore, but that's okay. I have a nice little handful here, and that's plenty for what I need. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping up these peppers and these onions. I'm going to add them to this and then mix them in with my hands. That's the best way to do it, is kind of mash it all in there with your hands and then let it sit in the brine for maybe an hour or so. I can already see the liquids being pulled out. You could probably go less than that. I think half an hour to an hour is sufficient for making the relish. And I'll come back when I'm ready for the next step. All right, so it's been almost an hour, and I'm here at my sink, obviously. And so I've got this mesh colander, and this is for this kind of thing, since I have a lot of stuff chopped up pretty small. This colander is really great for this kind of stuff, for rinsing your grains and things like that. So I'm going to be dumping this whole vat in here because I don't want that much salt ending up in my relish. I may go back and add a little bit more if I need to, but I would rather rinse it just to be sure, but you got to drain it anyway. This is how I used to do my kimchi when I did the old-fashioned brine method. is I usually let it sit overnight, and then I would rinse it really good so that it wouldn't be so salty. And then I just kind of mash it down and press as much water out of there as I can. So this could take a little bit, but again, I'm going to be adding vinegar to this, so I'm already going to be adding more liquid, so I want to get as much water out of here as I can. Alright, now to add my spices, my sugar, and my vinegar. So I'm starting with just a cup of sugar. Last time I did this, I did 1.5 cups. And we'll see how this turns out. I think I actually made a little bit bigger batch than I did yesterday. So that's actually cutting the sugar back even more because I've got more stuff in here and less sugar. I'm going to start with 2 cups of the vinegar. And we'll see how that tastes. I can get a pretty good idea. I mean, you've got to think your tomatoes are going to be pretty acidic anyway. Okay, so nutmeg I found just tastes really wonderful, and nutmeg's super good for you. There's a lot of great health benefits in nutmeg, and it's also, I know for sure it's one of those things that helps prevent catching colds, flus, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it's a good idea to get lots of spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger into your diet, especially during the so-called cold and flu season. So I don't know, I would say I might be putting 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon at least in here. What I do when I get down to this little, like a piece like that, I just put it in I'll brew this into some tea tonight, so I don't have to grate my fingers all to pieces. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and put, a tablespoon about of granulated garlic. I'll probably add more after I taste it, we'll see. And then maybe a couple teaspoons of dried mustard. Mustard seed would be good, but I don't have mustard seed on hand, so I'm just trying to go with what I have on hand. About a teaspoon or so of ginger, and at least a teaspoon of coriander seed. Okay, and then another thing I really like is the red pepper. It adds, since I don't have any, I'm not growing any red peppers of any kind, at least this adds color as well as a little bit of spice without making it too hot. The red pepper flakes. So I'm looking at that and I can tell I would like just a little bit more red pepper. Since the batch I made yesterday wasn't very hot, there's no reason why I can't add a little bit more to this one and give it just a bit more zing. And then we'll give it a taste test and see if I need to add any more salt in there or anything else. Any more garlic, any more coriander or anything. Actually, some of that stuff I can kind of look at it, and I think I'm going to throw in just a little bit more coriander. Okay, that tastes pretty good. It doesn't taste too sweet. I'm almost thinking I could have cut back just a little bit more on that sugar, but it's not too sweet, not for a relish. And I think there's plenty of vinegar in there. We'll see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go put it on my wood stove and let it simmer for at least 15-20 minutes. And I'll taste it again and see if maybe it might need a little bit more. I don't think I need to add any more salt to it. I think it's good just the way it is. All right, without setting up any big fancy lights, I'll go ahead and bring you in here. I do have this light right up here, this little bar light. It's battery operated LEDs. That works really good for me. And I've got some yogurt heating up, or milk for making yogurt heating up over here. And then here is my relish. So it's got a ways to go because this pan is a very thick bottom pan, which is really nice for cooking on a wood stove, but it does take longer for it to heat through. So I do have a ways to go before this is ready to start canning, but I just wanted to show you how I've got this set up here. And then over here in this big pot is water I'm heating up for washing dishes. Okay, so I'll be back in the kitchen with you when I'm ready to start putting this relish into the jars. All right, just got the relish off the wood stove, and I'm going to start filling my hot jars. And again, I like to just put a little bit in each jar just to make sure the jars stay warm while I'm filling the other jars. So just kind of go through, put one little scoop in at a time in each one. And even if I don't fill all the jars, I would much rather have one or two jars that I have to wash than to have to worry about a jar breaking because it got too cold. This is all cooled down now, and this is a jar that I canned yesterday. It was actually only a half a jar to begin with, but I went ahead and canned it, and so now what I'm doing is adding what's left over in the pan into this. As I said, this is cooled off enough now that I don't have to worry about it cracking the jar. It's a little bit warm, but not enough to be concerned about. And then I've got my jars in the canner right now, which is the All-American canner, and I'll link to it below. I'm using the hot water bath method for this, so I'll be processing for 10 minutes. So anytime you do hot water bath, you want to make sure your water's at least about that much above your jars, and then you're going to boil it. It's got to be a rolling boil for that amount of time, for whatever amount of time you're processing when you're talking hot water bath. Then for this, just 10 minutes is sufficient. Alright, so you may have noticed that I was using the Tatler lids, and I do have a video on that. Alright, and that's it on the relish making, at least the way I'm doing it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and that maybe you learned something new, and that you got another way to use up those green tomatoes and zucchini. Thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.